Okay, we are good. So welcome everybody. So we have a nice group of people. Because I'm presenting, I won't be able to see you individually. So if you have any questions or anything, please type them into the chat. And then Kristen and Christy, if you see something come up, just interrupt me so that I know. As with probably a lot of presentations, everybody says, go ahead and interrupt me. Let me know if you have any questions. And I do mean that. So happy to take a quick little tangent if you have a question. So welcome to everybody today. I do want to let you know also that this is being recorded. So just FYI. And we will get started. So this is to help you prepare for your interviewing. And we're really excited because this is really for students who are interviewing to take on some leadership positions here on campus, whether that be an RA, an ROL, anywhere else in a campus department. And then some students may be here because they're looking for internship or other volunteer positions and they're getting ready for interviewing. So this is really to help you present your best self as a student leader. It's presented by me, Donna Montoya, in Career Development, and by Residence Life, and Kristen Gage is here representing Res Life as well. So we'll get started. First thing you should know is that I like cats. So you may see some cat pictures up here and I see a couple people smiling. So good, I know my audience. This is what we're gonna go over today, just so that you feel ready to present your best self and let yourself shine. And there's a little prep work that I'm going to introduce to you before, for when that you're ready for your interview. So we'll talk about some of the prep and thinking beforehand, and then how to actually do a really great interview. So the first thing is we need to make sure that you know what your goals are for this interview. It's really hard to go into any type of presentation or speaking to anyone if you're not really sure why you're doing it or what the purpose is. So really, you want to make sure we know that you're interested in this leadership position, right? You applied for it, you sent in your resume, you know you're excited. What I want to make sure is you're able to actually verbalize that into being able to tell the person why. And to be able to do that, you do want to take a look at that leadership description, the position description, to really be able to connect yourself pretty tangibly to why. Yes, you want to be an RA, it'd be so cool, and you have really great ideas, and you know in your heart you want to. How are you going to convey that through the interview? So one of the ways to do that is to talk to your classmates, to your current RA or other RAs, maybe to your area directors, maybe to the advisor for whatever department you'd be working with. If you know those people, talk to them about what they love about the position. You'll be able to connect yourself personally to some of those things that they talk about. If you're able to take a look at the department's webpage or upcoming events that they have or programs or some initiatives, it's really nice because that can just get you even more excited about it and connect you even more. The more you know why, the more excited you will be. And that is what you want to present, right, in your interview. And it's not just to do a good interview. It's because we really want you to be able to be excited about this as well. And then as you do that, start looking at that job description, that leadership position description, to really take a look at what those most important skills are in your eyes. Because as I will show you, do you all see that a lot of bullet points right now?
Yes.
Okay. There are a lot of responsibilities listed in this position. And this is actually for, I think it's for an ROL position from maybe last year. Because it's really comprehensive, there's a lot of really great stuff that you as leaders get to do as an ROL. It's really daunting to think about going into an interview to be able to prove that you like and can do all of these things. You're not supposed to like and do well all of them yet. It's part of the training and part of why you want to be a leader, so that you get this experience. But you do need to have some background in some, and you do need to be excited about some of them. So one of my best suggestions is go through the position description, circle or highlight the things that actually make you pretty excited, or that you're curious about, or that you do have past experience in some other type of position. So it takes out the, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, and it whittles it down to what you are able to show through your interview. So remember, this is ultimately going to you in your interview. Here's another piece of the positions. It talks about responsibilities, right? And you'll find that the stuff that is most interesting to you, you probably have some background in already. And that's probably why your resume got you to the point where you get the interview. And when you talk to the leaders, they kind of understand that. But these are the types of things you want to pull out, because this is part of your goal, right? You want to be able to highlight the things that you're most excited about and that you can relate to. Another part of your goal is knowing about yourself and being able to express some of those really great traits that you have. So yes, they're related to the job and they're related to the leadership position, and you want to be able to show those. But there's also some things that may or may not be listed that maybe you've heard when you talk to your classmates or other leaders, maybe not. And so I wanted to make sure that you saw this list of the most important attributes that all employers look for. And this is going to be a list that probably you've seen in other places because all employers look for them. Number one is communication skills, problem solving skills, teamwork skills, initiative. All of these things you will be doing as a student leader or as an intern. Maybe you're not really great at some of them. And the point of doing this here at Linfield is that you have given yourself the opportunity, and your supervisor can see in you that opportunity to be able to really develop the skills and get better. When you get into a leadership position, you'll see that students who have been in it for another couple of years, they're really good at some of this stuff because that's why you do it here. That's why you get so good at this. It's a safe place. But know that these are the type of skills that if you really like them and you really enjoy using them, those are part of the things that you're going to highlight to help yourself shine. And if you're able to put together a chair, I think that is appreciated in any realm. So that's also good. Okay. So that brings us into, so what do you bring, right? What are those skills? What is your why? Why do you want to do this? And that's part of understanding what the role is and why you want the role. It's important that you bring certain skills and certain experience, but it's not the what as much as the why and the how. A lot of students could be an RA. Would they be great at it? Would they be passionate about it? Would they inspire other students to become RAs? The difference between them and why you're applying is your why. And so that's what we're looking at. Part of the why is really reviewing your resume and cover letter, even though you've already turned it in. Have it handy and review it ahead of time, because that will help connect you to your why and your how more than why think it through again. You've already thought it through to your resume. And your resume and those connections and talking to these current leaders is what got you to this place. You can think more holistically than just what's on your resume though. So a lot of these leadership positions, I'm sure you have some of your high school leadership in there, but it could be that you're a leader in your family in some way, or some of the skills that you'll be using as an RA, you used because maybe you're a childcare provider for other family members or close friends. Maybe you did other things. Maybe you did traveling. Maybe you were part of a host family setting. You can think a little more holistically if when you're thinking back at those skills and why you want to do them and why you enjoy them, if those were the other reasons, think of that as well. And then you're kind of honing that all into what are the top things that I really love to use. And that's what that previous thing is, because it's really so much easier to concentrate on a couple of really great things that make you really excited and shine than I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. We know you can do this. You're here at Linfield. You're a talented, smart person. It's how are you going to do it? And you're going to do it really well and very caringly if it's something that you do enjoy. Not to say that there's not other things that are important in the job, but in your interview, that's the stuff that will make you shine. Ask for feedback from people who know you well, and maybe your current RA or the person who was your ROL, or the student who helped you in the library now that you're applying for a Nicholson position. And then again, this is recorded, so you can always go back and look at the previous slides if you want some a reminder on the types of skills and things to think about. So we are going into, we've done the thinking, we've done the planning. Let's go to starting the interview. When you're in the interview, a lot of employers, a lot of people who are hiring, within 90 seconds, they know if they're going to hire you or not. I bet a lot of them would know even before then, because it's just the way you carry yourself in. If you start with a smile and you look excited, you've set the entire tone for that entire interview, right? And so just remember that as you're starting everything up. So maybe if you're the type of person like me, I might have to kind of almost pretend to get my interview self ready a couple minutes ahead of time. Some people can jump in and they're fine, but you know yourself. These are also pieces of that first impression. So it's the way you dress. And here it says walk through the door. Here it's how you look when you're ready to get online, right? It is important to still dress nicely, even if you're doing a Zoom interview for an on-campus leadership position. It just shows that you're serious about it and that you're giving respect to the process and respect to the position and the people interviewing you. So for these types of positions, we would call business casual, very appropriate. You probably don't need a suit and tie. You might not even need a blazer, but a nice shirt or a nice sweater, showing just that you took time to want to make yourself presentable. 38% of first impressions are determined by the quality of your voice and your grammar and your confidence. And so that's just something to keep in mind. This isn't to pressure you to make you go, oh my gosh, how am I coming across when I'm talking? This is a good thing, because if you're preparing for your interviews now, you will feel confident and you will have thought out types of questions and answers. So your grammar will be strong and your voice will be strong and positive. And it's partly the words you say as well, right? So those are part of the first impressions. Here's some more interviewing do's. I bet that some of you will be interviewing and some of your classmates or friends may be on the other side of that interview Zoom. Because when student leaders apply for student leadership positions, there's usually veteran leaders, returning leaders that are able to help make hiring decisions and gauge things. So you even though it might be your best friend or roommate across the string, you got to treat the interview seriously. So even if you're interviewing with Kristen and she's your AD and you know her really well, treat it seriously. It's the professional respect. It's also really good practice, but Kristen, as much as she knows you and trusts you, she still has to make decisions based off of an interview. And that's just part of the process. And it's also a good reminder for when you're interviewing for off-campus positions or when you're about to graduate. Sometimes you know the person interviewing you. Hopefully you do know the person interviewing you, because that's how people mostly get their jobs, through a connection or someone they know. You still need to treat it as professionally as you would an interview where you didn't really know someone. Another thing that you can do is, well, hopefully you'll be a little nervous, because by you being nervous, that signifies to me as the interviewer that you feel like you're nervous because you may have something to lose. You feel like this is your chance, right? If you don't feel like this is your chance, or if you don't feel like there's something to lose, it probably means you're not really that interested. I'll take it. If I don't get it, that's fine. No, I want to know you really want this job, which means that you would be nervous. And it's a human condition. It's a reaction. It's completely natural. And so you don't have to hide your nervousness as much as you might think. You do want to do it in a professional way. But if you're starting to feel really nervous, it's like a cycle, right? The more nervous you feel, the more you're trying to hide it. And that makes you nervous because you can't even concentrate on the interview, and that's making you nervous. So just tell them. So maybe I'm interviewing you for a position here in the career development hub. And I ask you a question and you start and you just realize you're very nervous, and you can say, "Ooh, sorry, I'm really nervous and I lost my train of thought. I'm really hoping I give off a good impression because this job would be a really cool thing to have." Okay, I'll try to start in again. Well, what did I learn from that as the interviewer? You're honest with yourself. You're honest with me, and you're nervous. What did that do for you? You don't have to hide it anymore. It's out in the open. And you know what? It's a fine thing. Part of the reason, though, that we prep for interviews is a lot of the nerves come through not really knowing what to expect and being worried that you might be asked a question that you're not sure you know the answer to, or what you might not handle really well. Or maybe you're going to answer a question and you're you started going down the story path and you're like, oh my gosh, this is not where I wanted to go with this. So a lot of the nerves are how you're going to answer. Well, that's why we prep. That's why we get you to the point where hopefully some of those nerves are going to be downplayed a little, because you do feel confident and you do feel positive, and you're going into this kind of hoping to have a little fun too and get to tell some of your story and learn more about the job or the position. Which leads us to being there in the interview and being asked the first question. And I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands because I can't see all of you, but in your mind, raise your hand if you think you know what it is. Tell me about yourself, right? I can see some of you, you're nodding. Yeah, that might come in a couple different forms, you know, but basically the first question is going to be, tell me a little about yourself. Why? The interviewer just wants to know in your own words who you think you are. That's a lot of pressure because you know a lot about yourself. So how do you even answer that in a way that's true to you, but relevant to this interview and to the person across the screen from you? You answer that through the elevator pitch. And some of you may have heard of this before. The elevator pitch is the idea that, let's say you're in downtown Portland post-COVID, and you get into an elevator because you're going to go up to the 14th floor to, I don't know, meet a cousin for lunch, right? And there's someone who steps into the elevator with you just before the doors close, and they're going up to the 14th or 15th floor as well. That's about a minute's worth of time, 30 seconds worth of time. For what if that person turns and goes, hi, what brings you here today? Tell me a little bit about what you're doing. Well, what if that person was your cousin's boss and they're hiring? What if that person went to a grad program that you wanted to go to? You want to be able to make a good first impression, right? And people have actually gotten jobs or opportunities through this exact thing, which is why it's a cliche, but it actually is true. So the idea is, how do you present yourself in 30 seconds to a minute about who you are and what you're about in an interview form? Because you want to tailor it to what you're here for, right? What your goal is. So I'm actually going to take a minute. I'm going to see if okay, I'm going to open the chat really quick. I think I will try. Okay. When I'm done with the presentation, I'm going to send you 2 different articles. Or Christy, actually, if you happen to have those available, would you upload them to chat? And if not, that's okay. One of the papers that I'm going to share with you all is how to prepare your elevator speech. And it comes in 3 parts. The first part is, and this is specifically for an interview, but it can be adapted. Who are you? What are you doing now? Who are you today? Right? So it could be, my name is Donna Montoya. I'm majoring in psychology here at Linfield, and I'm thinking about getting a math minor. I really like participating with my classmates, and I'm having a really great time living in the residence halls. I came from Ontario, Oregon, so it's really nice that I've been really engaging with this part of the state. That's who I am now. The second part is, what types of things do you bring or will you bring to this role? And you can kind of tell that in a very short, here are a couple things that I've done, or here are a couple things that I'm doing that I'm really passionate about. That relate to the role, right? Because there's a lot about you. Notice I didn't say if I had a lot of brothers or sisters or a cat or a dog or anything like that. But I might say when I was in high school, I was actually the vice president of the student body. And I really realized that I love the types of leader positions where I can do this. And when I came to Linfield, now I'm a green chair in my residence hall for my floor. And I'm just feeling like it's time that I just want to step up my leadership game. I'm settled. And so now, third piece, what your goals are. I sure hope your goals are something like, and so now this is why I'm really interested in becoming an RA. I want to do these couple things, and I want to see how that can branch out into other roles. So it's who you are, some experiences and passions you bring, and what your goals are. And that is what an elevator pitch is. And you will all have access to all of that once I'm done with the presentation. Those are, the elevator pitch is a very short story. Little snippets of a story. Most of your interview that you'll be preparing for is a little longer stories, because that's how you convey who you really are. You can list off skills and traits that you have, but they're not going to stick. People aren't really going to be able to believe them. There's no context. If you're able to talk about experiences that you've had, first of all, you're able to make that connection between you and the position and your future teammates, but you're also able to talk a little bit more about your skills and your abilities without even having to specify them that much. A lot of questions are asked that are called behavioral questions, which means tell me about a time when you had a conflict with your roommate, or when you worked on a team project, or when you were in an uncomfortable situation and how did you deal with it, or when you had a major accomplishment, what did you do? Because the interviewer gets to learn a lot more about you from your past and the stories that you tell than just, can you do this? Tell me about what you think about this. So right now we're going to go into the story piece of how to present yourself at the interview through stories. The way I want to suggest doing it is through what we call the 8 greats. 8 great stories that you can rely on. Maybe you won't use all of them during the interview, but you know that if you do want to use one of them, you've already done the thinking out, and now it's just time to tailor it. So I'll upload an 8 great worksheet for you all so that you can download it and actually use it. So for each 8 greats, so remember, each great is one story in itself. For each 8 great, these stories is about something that you did, something you're proud of, and something you did well. Why? We want to see what you do. We want to see you being proactive and you taking initiative and how you handle things. So that's the difference between something like, I'll use something non-academic or leadership related, really. When I was 8, my cousin took me fishing. I didn't really do that. I was an observer, or I was a participant. When I was 16, I took my younger brother fishing. That would be me doing it. So that's just the difference. Something you're proud of, because when you're proud of something, you shine and you get super into it, and that's what you want to convey, right? What are you passionate about? What do you think you did well? When you're proud of something, skills end up coming out through the story that you didn't even realize that you were telling the person. And something you did well, because we do want you to feel confident, and we do want it to be a story that's positive and light and not something that you felt struggling in. We know that in any job, you're going to have some struggles, and it's not always going to end up great, and you're not always going to feel proud of what you do. But you want to shine in your interview to show all of those positive qualities and how you can handle something that might be a little adverse. For some of these 8 greats, they might include teamwork, which would be a great thing. And so, yes, it is something that you did, but you need to take it from the role of my role as a team member, maybe my role as a leader or my role as a supporter, but it's the proactive piece that you took in working with your team. And for maybe 1 or 2 of these 8 greats, it is something that you did have to overcome, because you can be proud of something, even if it started out being kind of a sticky situation. You can be really proud of how you handled it, knowing that part of why it turned out well was the effort that you put in and the skills that you had to deal with it. And so that's why I suggest 8. It's not too hard to remember them. It's not too many, but also it's enough so that you can kind of have them floating around in your mind. So you do feel confident that if you're asked a question about teamwork or conflicts or leadership, being proactive, programs, you'll have something to draw on that might not be exact, but you know that it's a really good story that shows that general context. So this is how we do it. How do you actually tell your 8 great? In an interview, you want to tell it through the STAR method. And the STAR method is simply just a way to organize your story so that you know what you're talking to, and you don't get too off task and you go down a whole different tangent that you didn't mean to go to. So the way of organizing the story, it reminds me of why fairy tales are so well loved, because they're actually organized this way. It's a really easy way to be able to follow along with someone. Well, you tell your story, you want the interviewer to kind of be transported there and imagine him or herself there with you as you tell. So first you need a scene. You need to set the situation, right? Once upon a time in the land of Oz, or whatever. That's every fairy tale starts with something like that, right? Now we know where we are, right? For you, it might be, well, last semester, I actually took a really awesome psychology class where I got to have a partner and we were going to basically dive into a concept that we had been learning in class and create our own spin on a report of it. That's the situation, right? I can see myself there. The task is the next piece. So what had to be done? Was it an opportunity? Was it a problem? Was it an assignment? So then you want to talk a little bit about, so this assignment was to do this and this and this. This is what we were tasked to do. Maybe it was a problem, right? Part of the situation was that my roommate had to go home because of COVID. And besides just doing this report, we had to figure out a way to be able to communicate and still be able to divide up things and still be able to brainstorm that just could work for the situation, whatever. The action is what you actually did. And if you're in a team, yes, it's what the team did, but also it's what you did. So for example, my role was to, and then what you did. Through all of this, a lot of your other qualities are coming through than just, I did this, I did this, I did this, because you're telling how you did it and how you interacted with someone else. And the very last piece is a result, and we always want a positive result. So we ended up figuring out how to divide things up, and we thought Zoom was going to be the way to do it, but we realized that it was just easier over emails, and we got really good feedback from the professor. That's a really great result. And we were really proud of what we did, or whatever that might be. So even if it's something that's a little more, tell me when you had a conflict with someone and how did that resolve? The result should be, so the story should be something that was resolved and how you helped it resolve. Does that make sense? Okay. After you get through that interview piece, you're going to have a chance to ask them questions, and always have some questions written down. So you can always come with a notebook and have a couple questions. Why is this important? First of all, I'm guessing if you're interested in this role, you do have questions because you do want to know more and start envisioning yourself there. Second, it's important that they know that you are interested, and by asking questions, you show interest. Also, it shows that you might be able to show that you have done other research. So for example, maybe you could say, maybe you talked to other RAs or your RA, and you could say, I talked to my RA about office hours scheduling and I kind of got a rundown, but I'd like to hear from you how that's worked out, right? Yes, you did your research, but you do still have questions. You can also write questions down during your interview. So it is much more of a conversation than what this workshop is today. And so you are going to have some questions about what they mentioned, and it's good to be able to follow up on those. Last piece of the actual interview is making sure that you get to just give that one last go, right? There's going to be a place where they say something like, great, I think we're about to wrap up. Is there anything else you wanted us to know? Or, well, do you have any more questions before we wrap up? You can say, I don't have any more questions, but yes, I do want to thank you for your time. And just reiterate that you're excited about the position. Everyone on campus here, we're really good about letting you know the time frame. Right? So almost any department is going to say, we'll follow up with you by this date. But if for some reason they didn't, that's a good time to ask it. And in an interview off campus with someone not at Linfield, this is a good time if they haven't mentioned it to say, and I'd love last thing, I'd just love to know what the rest of the hiring timeline is so I can be prepared. Okay, after the interview, we still love getting thank you cards. And if that's something that you want to do, you're welcome to come into the hub just to pick out a card and just drop it off in the campus mail or at their office if the office door is open, or you can slip it under. In the leadership positions, at least an email thanking the person interviewing you and reiterating that you're excited. In an off-campus or professional position, thank you cards are not going to get you up to, if you're in that top group of candidates after the interviewers and you have a really good chance at getting the job anyway, a thank you card could help push that over the top for you. And it has happened with some of our alumni before. They'll come back and say, when they hired me, they said that the thank you card was part of their decision, because a lot of people don't send those anymore. And why not? If you really want the job and you're sincere in your thank you, right? make notes from the interview. So if there's anything Kristen said or Katie Diaboy said or something, oh, she just came in the waiting room. Boom. Oh, and Christy sent the handouts. Thank you, Christy. So if there's anything that you want to make notes of, do it right away or review your notes. And sometimes someone will say, you know, why look at this website to see those upcoming programs? Or if you're interested in this, take a look at this. Let them know that when your follow-up email to them, let them know that you've done it. I did follow up on looking at the site and it was super, super helpful. Thank you. Okay. Let's make sure that we are prepared for virtual interviewing during the pandemic because it's a totally different beast, right? So we're going to go through this quickly because I know you know Zoom etiquette at this point. A lot of your classes are over Zoom. All of your clubs and organizations are over Zoom. So you know the etiquette, but let's look at it through interviewing eyes. Here's 4 things that I want you to be cognizant of when you're getting ready to interview over Zoom or any digital platform. If there's any documents that you want them to have, email them beforehand or make sure you're able to upload them in a chat feature. So if it's on Zoom, probably you'll be able to do that. But it's really nice at least to have the email ready to say, okay, I know you asked for this and this. I have the email ready. I'm sending it now, just so that you're not kind of shuffling through things. Make sure you do have your Wi-Fi connection or the internet connection that you need. Here and there on campus, it feels like it glitches. So if you need a spot that you're not relying on your own Wi-Fi, that kind of goes into the next piece of choosing a spot that's going to be able to show you in the best light. So in our office, we do have a separate office that you can reserve for interviewing, for doing video interviewing. I know the library has stuff, and then you just want to make sure your Wi-Fi's on, and then that'll be a nice, quiet, well-lit space where roommates aren't going to have to worry about being too loud or people aren't going to be coming in. And like we've kind of talked about before, dressing appropriately. The other one, and Kristen's going to laugh at this, make sure that the tech side of the interviewing is ready. So just before you all got on, Kristen and I were testing stuff out and we realized that my microphone wasn't working. I've been on Zoom all day. I have been on Zoom meetings that I had previously scheduled. I have been wrapped into Zoom meetings. Fine. Have I touched my computer since? No. So I'm really glad Kristen and I decided to get on 5 or 10 minutes early just to make sure we knew what we were doing. You want to be able to do that for your interview because when you least expect it, that's when it's going to happen. You mitigate that by giving yourself time. You also arrive to the platform 1 minute prior to like the actual meeting platform, 1 minute prior. You might be there before the other person. That's fine. They know that you're serious about it and you're respecting their time, right? So have all of that ready. 3 bonus tips. Are you ready? I think they come up in a funny order. Smile, right? Start by smiling. Smile when you're telling your stories. Smile at the end. It will help show how intent you are about this and that you're excited about it. And smiling sets the tone. Frowning sets the tone. So let's make sure it's this. Make sure that your lighting is right. My office is really weird. If I don't move for about 10 minutes, my lights go out. So I actually make sure my lights are out before I get on a Zoom call because then the camera's already adjusted. And guess what? I haven't been using them, but this is for show. I have notes here and you didn't see it. So you can have your hidden notes. You can have 1 keyword for each of your 8 greats. You can have a couple things that you really wanted to make sure to get in. You can have a copy of your resume. You can have pen and paper so that you can take notes so that you're not relying on your screen for any of that. You can be totally engaged with the interviewer, but you can check down little by little. Is that good? It's good. So really quickly, when we go back to in-person, it's going to be a transition. So it might feel weird to be going somewhere with a mask or not being able to shake a hand, but a wave is fine. If someone feels comfortable with the elbow bump, if we're at that point and we can get 6 feet close, that's fine. But it's not going to be, it's going to be a transition in the interviewing space as well. Okay. I wanted to give time, and I think this is perfect timing for to hear from, let's see, who's on. I think I saw Kenna was here, Katie, Kristen, and Christy. I would love to hear from our hiring departments or departments who do hire in general. What's one thing that a student does in their interview with you that makes you just go, wow? So I'm going to start. Kenna, are you here? I saw you come in, but I can't see you.
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to share one thing that when you interview a student for a leadership position, you go, wow?
Oh gosh, it's hard to pick just one thing. Sorry, I didn't know that was the prompt. I mean, something that sticks out to me, I guess, I don't know if it's necessarily a wow, but something that really sticks out to me is if a student is honest about where they're at with like their knowledge of something. I would much rather, when interviewing a student for a position, I would much rather have them say, I'm not as familiar with that, program or that skill as I would like to be, but I'm willing to learn, rather than have them like lie or try to like beat around the bush to try to make it seem like they do, because one, that just doesn't seem very professional, and two, like if I do end up selecting you for a position and then you can't do what you said you would do, like that's just not really, doesn't really set the tone very well. But I'm totally opening to selecting people who are need a little bit more hands-on training in an area and are honest about it, as long as that's just something that they communicate with me.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for taking that prompt. Katie, is there something that really stands out to you that makes you really impressed with a student leader who's interviewing?
Absolutely. And I second what Kenna said. There's so many things that you can do to impress me in an interview. So that's good news for you. But the things that have really stand out to me really have to do with when an interviewee is willing to take a beat before they answer a question. If they're not sure what they want to say right after I've asked the question, they either are willing to be vulnerable in asking for me to clarify what I mean, and or they take a few moments to compose themselves, think about what they're going to say, pick out a star story in their head, and then they share, and they feel comfortable doing that. I think that's really great and shows confidence and calm under pressure, and I think that speaks volumes.
Thank you. And Katie, you're still hiring, right? You're in the hiring process for the ROL positions?
Yes, our application closes on the 20th of February, so plenty of time to apply to be an ROL, registration orientation leader.
And all of the leadership positions are on Cat Connect, which is a great spot to find them. So thank you. And Kristen, what's something that jumps out at you when you're on the hiring panel for RAs?
Yeah, so in interviews, I think some of the things that sometimes people feel like they have to be kind of perfect, or like they have to put on a front, or like have just the exact right answers. And for us, it's really important that people who are in these roles that can learn something from it and will like get something out of it. It's yes for RA and assistant, a resident assistant. So we want them to be able to get something out of this role as well, and not just contribute to the department and to their communities. So if they know what their growth areas are and how this job or this position or community, whatever, can help them grow and develop in that growth area, I think that's a really huge thing. And it shows us that they understand that there is more to learn, which is really exciting. And overall, I think a part of that is just being genuine to yourself, what excites you, what you want to learn more about, and what you feel like your strengths are as well.
So something that I'm hearing from all of you is you want someone to be open and honest and genuine, right? And that's really good feedback that, yes, we want to be professional, but we want to be ourselves, because ultimately you're going to be working as yourself, not as someone that you portray, right? In the best of your light. So that's really good feedback. And of course, it's Linfield. We want you to be yourself and to grow as yourself and be a genuine part of the team. So that's great feedback. Thank you. Let's see. I think that's it. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any other person who makes hires. I'm going to to move on to the next slide, because now we get to talk about the now what. So you've heard a lot, and I talked a lot today. And then we heard from some of the other supervisors. Now what? You have all of these tools. You have a couple things that Christy uploaded for me. Thank you. You have those 2 handouts to work on. You have us as your team. So if anything that I talked about, you have more questions about, you can reach out to us. We actually do practice interviews for any on-campus leadership position. So whether that's for a resident advisor, the RA, the ROL, which is, what's the R stand for, Katie?
Registration
And orientation leader positions, whether it's for a campus department. You can come and practice, and you just have to email us, and then we will set up a Zoom practice interview for you. Another thing that we have is this platform. So you can see it on the screen. It's called Standout. You can log in just with your Linfield email, and it'll pop up and connect you to Linfield University, and you press yes. This is an online platform to practice any type of interviews. You can actually curate your own interview practice if you want, but we've created some specifically for you. And we do have one up there that we created that is student leadership practice interview. So when you get on the platform, you can just write that in, type it in, and it should come up with my face and this background. And you can just practice answering questions. It's not a live conversation, it's a recorded question, and then you record your answer. Another recorded question, and you record your answer. The thing is, though, you can opt to have it sent to us so that we can review it and we can go over it with you if that's something that you choose. It's also there just so that you can get more practice answering the types of questions that that I was talking about earlier, those behavioral interview questions. So it's a really great platform, especially when we're not able to see each other in person, and you can do this at any time of the day. Let us know if you have any more questions about that. Something else you can do is keep looking ahead. So one of the most wonderful things about leadership positions on campus is that they prepare you for more leadership positions on campus, and they help you really grow as a student and professional, which is why these are so important. So Christy, I'm going to ask you really quickly just to step in and talk about what you're looking for, what the Presidential Impact Internship Program is, and who might qualify for that, and what you're looking for, what that offers.
Okay, thank you, Donna. So the Presidential Impact Internship Program is opening applications for first-year students only. And what it means is that those selected interns will work with us until they graduate on a lot of professional development activities and internships to help them really be very successful as they graduate. So we are looking for students who really embrace the liberal arts. They're curious, they're ready to explore areas that they maybe hadn't thought about. They're open-minded and willing to interact with a variety of types of people. So if you think that you might be interested in this program, you're welcome to email career, and we are happy to send you information. We're happy to meet with you to talk more about it. So that is our presidential program. The application is due March 7th, and there are more details in the document library. I will throw a link up in the chat for everybody to look at.
Thank you. And so these are all the other services that we can help you with. So we have a lot of resources and support. Right now, we're really doing all of them over Zoom. As you can see, one of our career specialists, Angie, who some of you may know, is helping the student just via video right now. So any of these other things that you see on the screen, we're able to help you with as you're looking to become a resident advisor or part of the advising team. And if you're looking at internships and jobs outside of the Linfield community.